Good evening, everyone. Today is November 26th, and I will call this North Liberty City Council meeting to order. Tracy, could we have roll call, please?
Leibold. Park.
Here.
Siddig.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Wasted.
Here.
Thank you. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. There are no changes to it, so could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Item 4 is our consent agenda. Thanks for everything that's in there, you guys. Is there anything that you want to pull out separate and talk about? Could I have a motion for consideration?
So moved.
Moved by Wasted and second by Park. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is time for public comment. Anyone in the audience wishing to make comments to the council on items that are not already on the agenda, now is your time. I will close the public comment period. Josiah, engineers report, please.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. All right, we've got 2 projects that have now transitioned into the bid phase. Freedom Park Trail plans are out for bid. Those will bid next month, and we'll have those in front of you in January. That's for construction next year. And North Liberty Road Trail project has been submitted to the DOT for bidding. They have a longer lead time, so that'll bid in February of next year. And we would have that in front of us in March. Construction phase projects right now, Centennial Park Event Complex. Still a lot of work going on underground and around the footings and foundations, but if you've been out there, some of the steel has started to go up on the north and east walls, and that structural steel continues to get delivered to the site. So that's underway. Couple items for closing out on construction phase are getting close. Fox Run Pond Trail. We've got basically, we're just going to wait till next spring to see how the grass came in. We didn't get a good fall for rainfall, so talked to Guy today, and we'll just let it go through the winter and see how it comes in the spring, and then touch it up. And Penn Meadows Park, it was on the earlier agenda item, but that project is complete, and we recommended it for final completion and release of retainage. And that's all I've got for new updates on projects tonight, unless there's questions from anybody.
Any questions for Josiah? All right, sounds good. Thank you, sir. Ryan, update, please.
Okay, good evening. Really just a couple things from me. You'll notice on tonight's agenda that the ARPA agreements didn't make it. We actually have them both in hand now, so we'll have those on the December 10th agenda. That's with Greater IC and UAY. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention this evening is that we have a new HR director starting on Monday, December 2nd. So we're excited to welcome Alexis Miller, and I'll be sure to invite her to a future council meeting to meet this group. But she will have just over a month to work with Deb, our current HR director, and learn the ropes. And so we're as sad as we are to see Deb leave. It's a well-deserved retirement, and we're as excited to have Alexis on board with us. That's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Ryan? All right. Item 8 is Mayor's report, and I'll start off with 2 community events that I was lucky enough to be a part of the last couple of weeks. First of all, Ryan and Tom Seelig knocked it out of the park on Tuesday of last week with their community Thanksgiving. Really grateful for our community for showing up and being a part of that event with some great speakers and guest speaker too. I can't watch a Minnesota Gophers football game without thinking of you higher. And then Pizza and Politicians happened the week prior to that on Wednesday night that I was that Brian Wace and I were lucky enough to be a part of. So just thank the library staff for inviting us and putting that on, and also for more folks showing up for it. Clear Creek Amana's school board member was there, a part of it, and also the superintendent showed up for it as well. So that was nice to have had them there. So I will finish up with a proclamation for Small Business Saturday. And whereas the city of North Liberty, Iowa celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 34.7 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 61.1% of net new jobs created since 1995. And small businesses employ 45.9% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 68 cents of every dollar spent at a small business in the U.S. stays in the local community, and every dollar spent at a small business creates an additional 48 cents in local business activity as a result of the employees and local businesses purchasing local goods and services. And whereas 59% of the U.S. consumers aware of Small Business Saturday shopped or ate at a small, independently owned retailer or restaurant on Small Business Saturday in 2023, and whereas North Liberty supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities, and whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, we, the North Liberty City Council, do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2024 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and shop small throughout the year. With that, I'll turn it over to you guys. Item 9, our council reports. Any updates from you all on activities you've had in the community in the last couple of weeks? Go ahead, Brian.
So, as you mentioned, we had pizza with politicians and had a good time there. Some good questions were asked, and hopefully they got some good answers. Appreciate the other elected officials that were there from the school districts and the state senate. We were at the MPO meeting. Let's see,
Forgot about that, yeah.
last week, another week ago,
Yep.
and stuff. So they had the report on a possible rapid bus line along the Crandick rail line from North Liberty into downtown Iowa City. And that was one project, and we've helped fund that study. And the overall cost was somewhere around $90-some million. But you kind of talked about it, though, that it's like, we're going to spend $11 million on half a mile of Rancho. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. So it'll be a big project. And I think there's a lot of stuff to do with it and stuff, but still waiting for the pop-up rail to kind of also kind of work its way through the thought processes. And then appreciate the fire department, the Captain Humston and Chief Platts. We did tour the training facility this morning. And it was quite an impressive facility they've got down there, and the way they've set it up. And I really was impressed by the way they set it up to, kind of represent some of the buildings we have in town that are much more probably technically difficult to fight a fire in. And they've said they've learned quite a bit from that. So it's really thought out place.
Thank you.
Mayor, I would just tag on to the fire department thing. Actually, on the way to work, ran across a fire in town before any of the responders were on scene, and got to watch them in action, which obviously do frequently at work. But just want to compliment them on their strategies and tactics. They did great. Did a lot to save a lot, and appreciate what they do.
I will say thank you to the fire department too, because I know they had a big month or so, and some very they did some very good things. I also attended the Living Room Connections at the library a couple weeks ago. It was a really interesting conversation, talking about bringing people together with such political divisions. So really want to thank the library for putting on hard things, being willing to do hard things and ask people to do hard things. Let's see, I did attend the NL luncheon, and I appreciated the presentation, I guess I'll say. And the Greater IC annual meeting was last week. Attended that. That was a good event, and I think Greater IC is doing some good things here as well. And then Johnson County Affordable Housing Coalition community meeting was last week. So.
Thanks for covering all those things.
Yeah, I would just echo. I also attended the South Slope luncheon, and I go to quite a few of those. And this one, I'm glad it's in North Liberty. I'm glad it's at South Slope, and Ryan with the top 10, and this year with the costume. It's just great. That's all. Also excited to hear more about the hospital, and just reminded of how much that's going to bring to our community, jobs, and it's really a great thing. So also attended the Greater IC annual dinner there, and that was also just a lot of stuff going on. It's great to live in Johnson County and North Liberty.
Agreed. Thank you all. Item 10, Ryan, is our FY26 budget framework and guidance, and item A is discussion on that framework and guidance, please.
Okay, well, framework and guidance is the formal term. I like to call it a temperature check as we jump into our FY26 budget preparation. I think we've mentioned here previously that our department heads have been working on their budgets since late October and are going to be ready to present to Tracy and I here shortly. Tonight, what I'm hoping to do really is just make sure we're going in the right direction. Developing the budget is, sure, it provides us some anxiety and can be a bit stressful at times, but it's helpful that we have a number of other plans in place. We have a capital improvements plan that's approved annually by this group. We have our goal-setting session report that we rely on. Of course, we have a comp plan, facility plans, park plans, our budget model. So a lot of these tools in place that help us guide this process along. So what I'm hoping to do tonight is just make sure that the way we're moving is still consistent with what this group wants to see. And so we'll start by just acknowledging a couple dates here. If you could get these on your calendar soon, January 21st and January 28th, both Tuesdays. The 28th is our regularly scheduled council meeting. The 21st is the third Tuesday of January and is our largest and usually longest budget session, where we'll bring all the department heads in and talk about the operating budget. Then on the 28th, we'll follow up and talk more about capital projects. And hopefully then by the end of January, the bulk of our work, at least from a decision-making standpoint, is done. And then you can see here we jump into various hearing notices and then the adoption of the final budget and certification to the state. Tonight, again, we'll highlight some of the challenges and opportunities. We'll talk about projects that are ongoing and recently completed, as well as what we currently have in the FY26 capital plan. And then looking for some feedback on that. And then, of course, just talking briefly about social services. I think it's a little hard to get too down in the weeds right now because we haven't seen what our revenue projections will be for the general fund, and we won't see that until the end of December. Oops. So I just wanted to call your attention to a couple of challenges that we will no doubt have as we, I should say challenges and opportunities, but that we will have this coming budget year. You might recall last year the rollback, which is how residential value is taxed, or a method of that, a piece of that formula. It dropped over 8%. It went from 54%, I believe it was, to 46% in 1 year, which is the highest it had ever, the largest drop it's ever seen in its existence. This year, we rebounded slightly. It's up just about 1%. So I think we should feel pretty good about that, and not confident, but better than certainly 8% drop. The Iowa House File 718, which was approved a couple years ago, is how our tax rate is determined, or the formula in there is how our tax rate is determined based on growth. So you might remember last year our 810 levy, which was at 810 is a maximum it could be at, dropped to 786 because we've used the term ratcheted down. It's ratcheted down that tax rate. If we see similar growth to last year, we anticipate that it'll drop down to $7.70. What that does is it just continues to erode the ability of the general fund to fund the services that we've come to expect in North Liberty. So that's PD, fire, parks, library, community relations. All those departments are funded from the general fund. So we'll, again, we won't, these are anticipated numbers now. We won't know for sure until probably end of December or at best, more likely 1st of January. And then lastly, a point I wanted to call out was the backfill credits. This is another shared revenue from the state that they ensured years ago would never go away. And over the last few years, they've started ratcheting down on that. And so this will be the last year we'll receive these backfill credits. We anticipate we'll get about $48,000 this year from those credits. And just to give you an idea, at its peak, we were getting about $340,000. So it's a significant swipe to the general fund. Do you have something, Tracy? That was just a
big
sigh. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to point out, and this is not an exhaustive list, and I debated on whether even putting it in here because I haven't had an opportunity to talk to everyone, but I anticipate we will be receiving requests in these 3 areas for staffing. And, you know, all 3 of these areas, coincidentally, come from the general fund. So it's going to be, we'll, of course, look at these more thoroughly when we meet with the department heads. The point I'm trying to drive home here is, you know, we're continuing to grow from a city standpoint, from an expectations of our residents standpoint, and it can be pretty demanding on the team we have. And so we're just trying to obviously be as efficient as we can, but also, you know, making sure we're meeting those expectations. So just moving on, this thing's a little touchy here. Just to give you an idea, really, of projects we've completed within the last 12 to 18 months. See, there's a pretty big list of things here, and ranging from maintenance of existing facilities to purchase of new. So you have the parkland acquisition, for example, the 40 acres just north of Penn Street and east of Jones Boulevard. I'm not going to list all these off, but it just gives you an idea of how productive we've been and some of the things we've accomplished here in the last, say, 18 months. And then some of those that are in progress, you're all aware of, things that have either been ordered or, as an example, for our Green Road intersection signalization project to be finishing up here very soon. Again, just projects we're knocking on the door at. And then lastly, the FY26 capital improvement plan as approved in FY25. So we know some of these projects won't make the new updated FY26 list. For example, Rancho Way Phase 6. You saw in my memo already that while we want to start design on that, we want to do so because it's a fairly complex project, and we want to get utilities out of the way, but construction of this project won't start till 2027. For Evergreen Road roundabout, again, as an example, I'm not going to go through all these, but we still have a few hurdles to jump there with agreements with our neighboring cities, but hopefully that one will be moving along. And then, we're going to definitely need to take some time to talk about the fire station and some of these other projects. So we haven't vetted these yet. This is just to give you an idea of what's there now, and we'll come back to this group with some other ideas. But again, making you aware of it so you can tell us, are we missing something, or is there something you definitely don't want to see move forward, or just trying to get ahead of the curve a bit as we prep and have our discussion in January. It's just a snapshot of the goals that the council approved earlier this year, making some good progress on some of them, and you can see some of them we have no update on, and so we'll actually, we have some plans to talk with some department heads about a couple of these moving forward within our budget discussions, but we'll get a more thorough update out in January on some of the progress we've made here, or not, progress we haven't made. And then, of course, we have social services, and this this is one where you can see over the course of the year the requests have gone up. Over the course of the last 3 years, requests have gone up. So have the awards, certainly not by the amount or the percentage of the requests. And so, again, as we look at our general fund, it's just becoming more and more challenging to fund the things that we aren't required to fund, like law enforcement and fire, because of what the impacts that the state decisions are making on our ability to generate revenue. So I guess what I'm looking for tonight is feedback, consensus. Certainly no decisions have to be made. We're going to be having future discussions, but are we missing anything? Or is there, well, are we missing anything? Do you feel good about the direction we're going? Any feedback is appreciated.
Any expenditures on our side for the Penn Street Bridge and all that project that's going with DOT?
No, well, there's $25,000 that we approved, I think, in the agreement 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Other than that, no, and that's a good example of a project that certainly wouldn't happen in FY26, because the thought process there is, if we've talked to the DOT about different ideas, or the concept of doing, identity markings, beautification, but we want them out of the way, and they don't want us in our way. And so that would happen well after this project is established, which would be probably 2 budget sessions from now.
Those are things that don't need to be baked in when it's constructed.
Right. We spent a lot of time talking to them about, do we include it now or don't we? And frankly, in my opinion, the bureaucracy of the DOT, and we appreciate what they're doing, they admitted as well, it just made more sense for us to pull it out and do it on our own.
Anything else there?
So the thing that I think we need to be thinking about, and Brian brought it up earlier, the idea of transit on the Krandick line is going to come sooner or later. Sooner than later, and we should be thinking about that. And I think we need to be prepared and willing to contribute and be a part of whatever project comes out of that, if one does. I'm hopeful that the pop-up metro will work. I think it's with all of the studies that have been done showing the costs of converting the Krandick line to a passenger rail or to a rapid transit bus, the cost of doing those things is so astronomical to it feels like it's not even possible. What we've seen from pop-up metros is much more reasonable, and it gives us at least a 3-year, what they're proposing at this point is a 3-year pilot study where we can actually get ridership data. So we're not just relying on studies. So I think that's something that we should really be looking at. Obviously, we don't have any hard numbers right now, so we can't, and we're not talking hard numbers for the budget yet, but something that we should have our eye on and be ready to find funding for.
And could I just make a comment on that?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great reminder. Go right ahead.
I do too, and I think it's certainly something we need to be mindful of. And as Eric noted, it's hard to put anything in a budget when we don't have any numbers. I think from thinking this through, I think from a capital standpoint, it's always easier for local governments to get capital money because we can borrow that. I shouldn't say it's not easy, it's just less difficult. Where the real challenge is going to come into play is how we fund the operation of something like this. And I believe it's going to take a new revenue source. The general fund as it stands, unless we are looking at wiping out significant amounts of other departments, we don't have the legal authority to do much more in there. And so I think there's the transit levy, I think was remained untouched from the state legislation. So that might be a possibility, but we have to have some sort of ownership in this, so we'd have to talk through that. But outside of that, we would have to look at some sort of other revenue source, whether that be local option tax, whether that be an additional franchise tax. I want to make sure folks understand that it's going to take additional revenue to make something that sizable happen.
Yeah, and I think we're all on the same page that, well, I shouldn't speak for everybody else, but I'm on the same page that Eric is. The nuance of how we plan for it, Ryan, is, I mean, we may have some direction first half of 2025. We might have some numbers to put in there, and it might be able to get started sometime in FY26, starting July 1st. So I think we need to be trying to dive into that a little bit, where if it's going to come from the transit levy, if we're going to add more to a franchise. So if you can start to model for that or help us to walk through that conversation, I think it is something that we're going to need to address.
Mayor, I would just, again, I want to put our partners at the University of Iowa on notice here, because they have to be a substantial partner in this endeavor if it's going to be successful. They stand to gain, I believe, the most benefit of this type of transit. It would be wonderful for folks that live here in North Liberty to be able to ride that train to work and not have to park and pay to park and, free up parking down there. But that's a sizable benefit to their organization. And I'm still waiting to see them make, an effort publicly on that. It's going to take that, in my opinion.
For the record, I agree.
So I guess the question would be then, what our maximum amount of transit levy is available to us at some point down, and just kind of work on that when you get time.
Yeah, we can, I think, and again, not to be a wet blanket here, but I don't think we can do anything with the transit levy until we have a transit authority or a transit that we're a part of, transit organization. And we'll look into that a little bit more, but I know we looked at it years ago when we did the partnership with Coralville with the Blue Bus, and I'm pretty certain we didn't qualify because it's not our system. So, but yeah, we'll look into that for sure.
Because that would be, hey, we can't do this because
Right.
we can't do this.
Right.
It would also be a discussion point for all of the communities in the county, though, to get us to a regional transit authority so that we could tap into this funding. Is there anything else? I thought that's a really important one, Eric, and I'm glad you brought that up. Anything else that you guys see that we're missing?
Just the only, there's a lot of important things on here. I think the create and implement a public art program could be done without, a lot of money, I think. And so that's something that I would like to keep moving forward to add a little culture, to the area, but maybe not at a high cost. So that's one thing I wanted to do.
That's one area in particular that we'll be having discussions about internally. I think the bigger issue there is going to be the manpower, the horsepower to keep it rolling. But yeah, we'll be, it's on there as a goal, so we'll be reporting back on that.
Perfect.
That's all I have, unless there are any other.
I don't see a lot of stuff that's, I guess you'd call it fluff. Everything is, the budget has been pretty tight for quite a while now. And, replacing things is they're about to, hit their useful lifespan so that we're not, trying to make do with things that are not safe anymore. So I think everybody's really done a pretty good job with that, department heads. And it's like, hey, let's get into things on a rotating maintenance basis so we can kind of expect what our costs are going to be. So I just don't know that there's a whole lot of extra stuff to do much with. So.
Yeah, that kind of limits my brain power also when I know that the dollars are just not going to be there.
I might take the opportunity, the list of stuff that has happened in North Liberty is incredible. So we're busy and we're growing and it's great. So I just take the opportunity to say thanks for that.
All right, I'll move on to item 11, which is the Watts rezoning, and item A is public hearing regarding proposed rezoning. I don't think there's anyone out there in the audience wishing to make comment. So Russ, I'm going to move over to item B and staff and commission recommendations, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just a small change that Watts is requesting. The RS9 zoning they found that is selling a little bit better, and you may recall I've mentioned we're starting to see lots shrink a little bit and a couple of more units. Along that block face, they'd get 3 extra lots. So it's not a lot. I think they were conscientious of compatibility because they chose the west side of the future block to be RS9, so it would be compatible with the existing RS9. Along Alexander Way is RS6, so that east side would remain RS6. So there's really not any compatibility issues. So very small request. Staff reports it and again points out that the Watts development, the preserve, is just a really good example of a mixture of types of housing that we really want to encourage in the city. Planning Commission did consider it at its November meeting and unanimously recommended approval.
Is there a presentation we need to go through? It's pretty straightforward, I think. No? Okay. Item D then is first consideration of ordinance number 2024-13. And this is an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from RS6 single unit residence district to RS9 single unit residence district. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Park. Any questions?
Just real quick, Ryan, is RS9, is that as dense as we get for a single family without like a PAD or something?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Sorry, is RS9 as dense as we get without a PAD or something like that?
Yes. Okay. Yes, it
for
is.
Single family.
Yeah, it's actually, I think the lot size requirement is in the order of 4,000. We don't see it quite that small. That's difficult to do with front loaded garages. But yeah, that's pretty small lot size. Yep. And actually, to point out, it wasn't until, so I've been here coming up on 5 years, it wasn't until the last couple of years that and it's been in the code that we just started seeing it.
Right.
Any other questions? Tracy, could we have roll call, please?
Sittig,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 12 is Liberty's Gate, lots 7 and 8 rezoning, and item A is public hearing regarding proposed rezoning. Anyone in the audience wishing to make comment on this item? I'll close the public hearing. Item B, Russ, the staff and commission recommendations.
Okay, so there's 2 projects on the agenda tonight. The first one is on the south side. This does involve a rezoning from C1B to C2. The reason for the rezoning is we allow for multifamily now in C2. That was a somewhat recent zoning amendment. We did not make that change to C1B, and I'll talk about that in a second. So you can see the zoning in the land use map. Here's the preliminary site plan. This will come to you on the third reading, assuming it gets that far. But just shows an example of some of the things we like to see. High masonry requirement in the commercial zoning because it's commercial 60% on all elevations. And I thought this was interesting. So, certainly we want to encourage infill development. This is an aerial from 2003. So these lots have been vacant, this one and the one on the north side, for over 20 years. So almost there with this development, but I thought that was kind of interesting. And we did have a virtual good neighbor meeting on October 21st. Had a representative from the church next door, had some general questions. And again, it was appreciated just because they said, hey, I just kind of want to know what's going on here. And that's exactly why we have those good neighbor meetings of not coming to a planning commission or city council while they're welcome, just to say, hey, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Just talked about how to be a good neighbor. It was a really good meeting. And we did receive an email from the multifamily to the south. No objections. They just had some trees in the back, apparently that someone had accidentally taken out in the past. But just wanted to make sure that landscape buffer was preserved. In addition to the higher masonry requirement, since it's commercial zoning, they also have a landscape buffer requirement along that south side as well. So those are a couple of enhancements that we would see. This is what we would call, the C1B location, and I've been trying to work and I don't want to call it fix, but modernize the zoning code over the past several years. And we had a lot of nuanced zonings. We have C1A, we have C1B. We used to have C2A and C2B. We combined those into C2. C1B is just this kind of, I would call it like a C2 light. It's not that, what I would say, different than C2. Just a couple of minor things. It allows retail, it allows restaurants. So I'm still kind of working through what I think is the best approach. I think there's options for eliminating C1B altogether and just making it C2. So you have just a couple of levels. I envision C1 as being a neighborhood commercial district, which would be appropriate for like Cherry Street, where you're having build to lines, smaller scale. Heinz, Naomi's, the bike shop are perfect examples of the type of development we would want to encourage along Cherry Street. That would be like C2, a C1. C2 would be more of a general commercial, and then C3, obviously we've implemented, would be kind of a larger scale type. So, when we talked to the developer about this, your options were to, because it's not allowed in C1B, is to do a PAD to allow multifamily in there. And if you go a little bit to the west, you see it at 520 North Madison. That's got the hash lines there. That's a C1B. That was approved as a PED, which is a multifamily and an office over there. So long-windedly, I apologize for that. I thought C2 is the best just because I see this area, the second level, as C2 being appropriate. And I'll give you another example of where I see this second level of commercial where it's like C2 makes more sense to me here. And this is along Liberty Way, where you have the brewery and a multi-tenant commercial there. Again, I think the C1B is just such a minor difference than the C2 that it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So that was the explanation why we thought C2 would be better in that location. And there's a very large property in the city that's still zoned C1B, which is the Ted Lewis property across from the university and the golf course. And so I'm very careful about making changes to the zoning code that's going to impact development. And so I've been conscientious of that. I wanted to really think through, as now that the university hospital is coming, kind of what the long-term vision for that property on the north side there. I don't think it's C1B. I don't think it's C2. I think it's something more dense or intense. So sorry for the long explanation. We did, the Planning Commission did accept this listed finding, and they forwarded the request for the zoning and map to the City Council with a recommendation for approval, and that was unanimous.
Thank you, sir. I benefited from that explanation, so don't feel sorry at all for the long-windedness of it all. It was helpful.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Russ? You guys didn't appreciate the long-windedness as much.
I did.
I did. Yeah.
All right. I figured as much. How I go, everybody else goes. That's what I
The only
figured.
thing, have we thought about traffic there? I don't know what we do about it, but that's a.
Yeah, that, getting back to The tough part here is the intersection of Madison and we start getting backed up a little bit past that intersection.
As it's going out onto Penn Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's probably something we're going to have to look into a bit more about signal timing and things like that. Fortunately, I think a residential use kind of has a different peak hours and is generally less traffic than a commercial, like a normal commercial. But yes, it's something we're thinking about. We haven't gotten too far into it though.
Just because of the farther down, the
Yeah.
agenda there. So.
Yeah.
When is the last time we studied that intersection?
And in Kansas,
Yeah.
probably when the traffic signal was
Mhm.
studied and
What triggers studies for them then? Are they, is it population? Is it filling? Is it just us asking? Or what's the most scientific way to go about studying that?
well, I mean, it could be how it's performing, just visual problems.
Okay.
Or it could be a large development, could spur, you're going to bring in a large traffic count to this intersection specifically. So, I mean, I wasn't involved when that signal was designed, but I think we knew this was commercial in general. So that
Yeah.
would have been just one little site here and there, not necessarily, but
Yeah.
a big giant.
And Forever Green Road took a big pressure off of Penn Street, which took pressure off of this intersection too.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, certainly if we find it's performing as a problem, then we reach out to MBO and they perform studies for us, really as requested, and they're amazing to work with.
yeah, they are. And but it's visually, if we're noticing something that we have control over the timing of the stoplights to help cue that up. Okay. Do you guys have any other questions? Okay. And is there an applicant presentation for this one? Okay. Head shaking. Item D then is first consideration of ordinance number 2024-14. And this is an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from C1B General Commercial District to C2 Highway Commercial District. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sittig, seconded by Park. Any other questions? And Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Sittig,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 13 is Fire Station 2 rezoning, and item A is public hearing regarding proposed rezoning. Anyone in the audience wishing to make comment on this? Seeing none, I will close public hearing. Item B, back to you, Russ. Staff and commission recommendations.
So this is just cleaning up the zoning map. This is the 3 acres that we've identified and purchased. It's still zoned interim development. We actually identified it as public on the future land use map, knowing that this was the property. And so we're just following up on that. You may recall that this location was chosen after substantial public input about the actual location. And so this really just, we want to make sure the zoning map reflects and people look at it and say, oh, there's a public building going to be constructed on there at some point in time. So Planning Commission did consider this at its November meeting and unanimously recommended approval as well.
Okay. Any questions for Russ? Is there an applicant presentation for this one? Not likely. All right. Item D is first consideration of ordinance number 2024-15, an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from ID Interim Development District to P Public District. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Wason, seconded by Sittig. Any questions? Tracy, can we have roll call, please?
Wason,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 14 now is Liberty's Gate lots 4, 5, and 6 site plan. Item A is staff and commission recommendations. Russ.
This one will be much shorter, I promise. The only thing to add here, this is zoned C2, and I will note that this is a direct result of some of the changes that you all approved. Now we allow multifamily and commercial as what we call this a horizontal mixed-use development, where you have multifamily, and on the east side is a commercial building. Before, in order to do this, you would have to come forward and do a rezoning in the form of a PAD. So I think we are responding to those types of desires out there by the development community. And again, this is another underutilized that's been vacant property for about 20 years. And so This one's pretty interesting. It's got neat connections to the pond trail. So this overall, it's a really good development, and I'm happy to see something like this move forward. Again, the Planning Commission considered this at its November meeting and unanimously recommended approval.
Any questions for Russ on this one? Okay. Is there an applicant presentation for this one? All right, that was item B. Item C then is resolution number 2024-108, and this is a resolution approving the preliminary site plan for Auditor's Parcel 2016-069, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Park, seconded by Smith. Any other questions?
I just like the buildings.
Yeah.
Those look good.
Yeah, those are pretty uniform, kind of cool. Tracy, can I have a roll call, please?
Smith,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 15 is Shive Design Proposal, and this is resolution number 2024-109, a resolution approving the services agreement between the City of North Liberty and Shive Hattery, Inc. for the Ranshaw Way Phase 6 project. Could I have a motion to kick this off, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sittig, seconded by Wason. Do you guys have any questions about this? Tracy will take roll call, please.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 16 is our 2024A bond sale, and item A is resolution number 2024-110, a resolution authorizing and approving a loan agreement providing for the issuance of $9,195,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2024A, and providing for the levy of taxes to pay the same. Could I have a motion for consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Sittig. Questions on that one, you guys? Tracy, roll call, please.
Wason,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 17 is Hodge Construction Company rezoning. And item A is consideration of waiving the rules requiring two considerations prior to final passage of an ordinance with respect to ordinance number 2024-10. Could I have a motion for considering to waive that second consideration?
One motion, Mayor.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Sittig. Do you guys have any questions or thoughts on that?
So usually it would not be my preference, but we did delay them a while because of trying to come up with a little bit better language. And so they worked with us, so we can work with them.
It's well put. I like that idea. Any other questions or comments? Tracy, we'll take a roll call on this one too, please.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
Motion carries. And item B then, the second and potentially final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2024-10, an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for the certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from RM21 multi-unit residence district to C3 higher intensity commercial district. Could I have a motion for this final consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Park, seconded by Sittig. Any questions? Tracy, roll call, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion also carries 4-0. And finally, item 18 is North Jones LLC rezoning, and this is also a third consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2024-11, an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from RM8 multi-unit residence district to RM12 multi-unit residence district. Could I have a motion for our third consideration and adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sittig, seconded by Park. Anything else on this one? Tracy, roll call, please.
Smith,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Sittig,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 19 is anything in the old business category. Seeing none. 20, new business. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sittig, seconded by Smith. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.